Welcome to another We Talk Chelsea podcast live on TKS TV, on Firestick, and on YouTube. And it's misery loves company, and all three of us are miserable. Chelsea lose at home to Wolverhampton Wanderers 2-4. Absolutely rotten. What a wonderful week it's been. Losses to Liverpool, 2 games played, 8 goals conceded. Charlie, Timber, how are we feeling?
It was as expected. I think it was. It's been a theme of the last 2 years, where we've gone 1 step forward and 2 steps back. We've said it enough on this channel. We got to the Carabao Cup final. We won, was it 3 league games in a row, and we looked like we were on a bit of a roll. And then it just all goes backwards yet again. And look, we're rolling into a match on Wednesday against Aston Villa away again, where we're probably looking to make it 3 losses in a row. And it wouldn't surprise me if we concede way more than 4 goals as well. Tem, what's your thoughts, son?
Yeah, I think it's just confirmed all of our fears we had halfway through the season. I think now it's a situation where it almost seems unattainable, and I think we'll discuss whether it's just down to the manager or it's a lot more than that. And obviously, I think we all agree it's probably a lot more than that. But yeah, like you say, I think we all saw the loss coming, and we're probably going to see a loss incoming, unfortunately.
I didn't see the loss coming. I genuinely thought we were going to win the game. Is that naive of me? Is that really naive of me? I didn't expect us to be so comprehensively defeated by Wolverhampton. They took their chances, but maybe that's just me. I've been away. Anyway, I'm back. Hello, Tom. That's me. Tem and Charlie took the helm in the 2 weeks I was away. I do apologise. Where do we begin? Should we go to the starting lineups on this one? Should we look at the starting lineups on this? Is that the best protocol?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, we can
Let's have a look at the starting lineups on this. I'll bring up the information. So it looks like Chelsea is sticking with and Pochettino sticking with the familiar 4-2-3-1. Bizarrely, I thought it was a bit strange. The 3 players that you hooked at half time against Liverpool all started the game. Did you find that was a bit strange, Charlie?
Sort of not. He's done this quite a lot this season. He's done this sort of thing where he's brought on players who have affected the game. Then he's started them. I'll give you an example. Was it the Palace away game that we had with Madueke? These similar sort of things. So we've had this sort of in recently anyway. But yeah, I mean it's just a load of rubbish.
Yeah, I mean, Timber, were you surprised that Pochettino decided to stick with the 3 that he took off at halftime as well? I thought it was very bizarre. Like, I looked through the starting lineup as soon as it was announced, and I went, well, he took Gallagher off. He took Gallagher off at halftime. He took Chilwell off at halftime. I can't remember who else took off at halftime against Liverpool, and all of a sudden they're back into the starting lineup. I thought it was strange. Like, the options were there on the bench. I thought Carney Chukwuemeka, when he came in against Liverpool, did enough. Maybe fitness was the issue, do you reckon?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know this manager. I think a lot of his selections sometimes leave us confused. Like a good example was when Mudryk actually showed a bit of form. He didn't start the next game. Same as Gallagher, when he's not been playing well, he still starts the next game. So it's just been a little bit confusing to work out exactly who would play. But I was actually surprised that he went with 2 fullbacks. I thought maybe he would have given Gusto a bit more time and gone with Disasi out wide again. But other than that, I think that 11 makes the most sense on paper. I don't really see anyone else who maybe Gallagher for Mudryk is the only change, or Madueke. But apart from that, I genuinely don't see anything more he could have put out in terms of a strong starting 11.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the available people that were on the bench on this one, so, on the bench, Nicholas Jackson making a return for African Cup of Nations, Mikhailo Mudryk, Carney Chukwuemeka coming back to full fitness, Badiashile, Madueke didn't even get on the field for this game. It seems bizarre as well, opportunities like Desiree Chassadai not being brought on as well. It's just, I was looking at through this game, and I thought we have a distinct lack not necessarily of identity, which we all know, but our midfield is absolutely atrocious. For two pivot players that cost in excess of £100 million combined, of like £230 million combined, our midfield is so easy to play against. And I'm not seeing a return on Caicedo at all. Like, I genuinely believe Liverpool are just laughing at us, the fact that we managed to convince Caicedo to join us, because I'm not seeing a player come, minus the assist for the first goal to Cole Palmer. You know, he was at fault for one of the goals that got caught short in midfield. On midfield, the fact that we've spent so much money in areas that just haven't been improved, if anything, I would argue they've got worse. Do you not think that, Charlie? Do you think we're just worse as a team at this point last season? We've got the same amount of points where we were this point last season. We've conceded more though. We have scored more, but we've conceded more as well. We just look ropey in defence.
Yeah, and I think the most worrying thing about midfield is that Liverpool wanted Caicedo for the same price that we got him for. So that at that point you go, okay, it can't be the owners. It can't be the owners. You know, if the owners were prepared to pay £1 million more than Liverpool or whatever it might have been, it has to be the manager. There is no other way that you can look at that. If Klopp, and the same thing, goes for Lavia. Exactly the same thing goes for Lavia. We've had that. Those are two. And lastminute.com, Liverpool going for, what are they going for? Two midfielders at the very last minute, and they turn out to be better than both of our midfielders. I mean, it's just that just shows itself. I mean, that team, when you look at it, it's a team, like Tem says, it's the best team that we could have probably fielded in the position we're at. But do you recognise that team as a Chelsea team?
I don't recognise that team at all,
just a
because
bunch of wallies.
They play like a collection of individuals. They don't play like a team. Like, there's no organised press. They play like individuals as opposed to a team. By all accounts, we'll delve into it a little bit later, that it's not particularly harmonious in the dressing room. But Temba, like, I'm still not seeing after 6 months an identity for this team. Like, fair play to Wolves, they came in and they played absolutely well. They took their chances. Yeah, they got a little bit lucky with the first goal with the deflection, but Wolves played like a team on paper. Wolves shouldn't be the better team on paper, but they absolutely ripped Chelsea to shreds completely, didn't they?
Yeah, and I think it's what Charlie said. It's got to be a thing of where it comes down to the manager. If you see something's not going right, you've got to change it straight away. And to let us just lose in the manner we did, I would say it's a tactical problem. Whether your players aren't doing the instructions you tell them to, then you've got to either switch formation or take those players off sooner. Because as you saw in the Wolves game, same as the Liverpool game, it was a constant wide battle of 2v1, and I think it's something we've struggled all season with a lot of the times, and will continue to struggle just in the way we set up. I think I don't think the wingers help the fullbacks enough, and I don't think the fullbacks help the wingers enough in the same sort of vein. We don't usually attack 2v1. We don't usually defend 2v1 either. We defend, either we attack 1v2 or defend 1v2 again. So it's not the most helpful scenario, especially when you've got players who are unathletic really in midfield. Caicedo, yes, but Fernandes and Gallagher aren't quite close to either midfield or defence. So it just creates a huge hole in that midfield and sort of a link between attackers and defence. So I don't know. I just think it's just tactically doesn't look right at all.
I mean, the rumours go flying around the mill at the moment, Charlie, is that the Pochettino is looking to switch to 3 at the back, with potentially playing with wing backs. It's a formation that we famously won the league under Antonio Conte about 7 years ago now, back when we were actually a decent team. And the return to that, do you think that putting 3 at the back is going to ensure that defensive stability there, or do you feel it's just another throw the dice for Pochettino?
Well, it's a bit late now, unfortunately. I mean, the problem, and I've said this whole way through the last year, is that there's certain players that have to play if they're fit, and that's a problem that we have. And Man United have had this problem You know, Arsenal have this problem. Silva has to play in the big games. He has to play, right? Uh,
Yeah.
Enzo has to play. Caicedo has to play. Sterling probably has to play, although that's that. But if Reece James is fit, he has to play. If Chilwell's fit, he probably has to play. You know, and this is a problem. We have so many players that kind of have to play that to work a system out around these players, it's a bloody nightmare. And this 3-5-2, yeah, okay, fair enough. It might make Silva's life a bit easier, but okay, Gusto was absolutely tragic yesterday. I thought absolutely
Yeah.
useless. You know,
Yeah, he didn't have his best game. I thought there was a
I like
there's
that.
been
I
games
think
through.
he's done
I
okay so
like
far,
him.
but yeah,
I like him. It feels like he could be potentially a very good player for Chelsea in seasons to come. I think he's a good understanding for James. But he's had such a poor game. But I think there's only 2 guaranteed starters in this Chelsea lineup. You know, if you take money spent on them and just focus purely on form,
yeah.
it's Cole Palmer and
Caicedo and
Thiago
Enzo.
Silva. It's not.
It is
It's
no, but
it's no
mm,
focus purely on form. It's not those two.
yeah,
It is just not
but
those two. It's Cole Palmer and Thiago Silva, irrespective of how much they cost. I appreciate they've been put into a rock and a hard place because you kind of have to play these players. But unfortunately, I just want a manager in. It's got the bollocks to say, that you two are playing absolute dog shit. I'd rather play Carney Chukwuemeka and Cole Palmer or somebody along those lines that actually actually gives a shit and wants to play football. Because at the moment, this team is absolutely difficult to watch. They're even more difficult to watch than last season. And that's saying something. I famously said, I say famously, but notoriously said in this podcast, like, oh, it's not going to get worse. And every freaking game, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. We're losing to teams that we should beat. We should be beating teams like Wolverhampton Wanderers. We've now lost to Wolverhampton Wanderers both times. Both for the first time at home since 1979. If there's a record to be broken, a bad record to be broken, this Chelsea team's going to do it. I think this Chelsea team's more likely to be relegated than the team last season.
Really?
Yeah,
yeah,
Okay.
well,
absolutely.
Interesting.
potentially,
Absolutely,
well,
because we've got the mentality now is worse. We're second to the ball on everything. Second to the ball on everything. There's not one of
You
these
know
players
what?
got like any form of desire to get towards the ball. They're all on 9-year contracts, stupidly being given 9-year contracts by Clearlake Capital. They've got no incentive to actually play well because they know, do you know what? I'm still going to pay 100 grand a week for the next 9 years. So why should I fucking chase that ball?
Mhm.
It's atrocious. It is atrocious. There's no incentive for these players. Like I've got Chelsea supporting friends that all around the world. Like in terms of people who I work with, like one's in Dubai, and he absolutely can't stand Raheem Sterling. Can't stand him. He says he's the worst signing that we've had out of all these players.
Mm.
We look at players like Conor Gallagher. Like he doesn't understand Conor Gallagher's role in the team. Like, and I try and say, yes, you can run around a lot, but it's the same as Mason Mount. Like a couple of seasons ago, he's a player that's going to do off the work ball, but he doesn't offer us anything else.
Yeah.
And where does
Yeah.
that stand? Is it the manager's fault? I don't think it's. Do you know what? I'd argue potentially it's not even Pochettino's fault. I think Clearlake bringing in the Brighton people, Winstanley and Stewart, they've had an absolute nightmare. With the exception of Cole Palmer, they signed on the last day of the season. They've had an
who
absolute shocker because there's absolute shocker. Cole Palmer is
who
the
by, who
only
by
player
the
that's
way
come in
was
and
who
performed.
by the way was luck. We bought Cole Palmer because we couldn't get was it Adriso? We couldn't get was it Adriso we couldn't get?
Elise,
Sorry,
from Crystal Palace, yeah.
from Crystal Palace. So we couldn't get him, so we ended up with Cole Palmer, and yet Cole Palmer's been the blue-eyed boy, you know. And
And that's the
this
only
is what
piece of
annoyed.
good luck
Yeah,
we've had.
yeah. What
It's
was
the
the
only
only
piece of
luck we
good luck
had?
that
What
we've
was
had.
the only luck we had last season was Thiago Silva, and Thiago Silva this year has been again brilliant, but his legs are going. Everyone can see that.
Yeah,
There's so much of that going on. We've had moments of brilliance. It's such individual talent that has managed to get managers over the line. There's no cohesion in this team. It makes me sick even look at I can't tell you how angry I get looking at these bunch of clowns. Honestly, I don't have any
they've made
connection to them. I don't like them. I don't have any. I would never, if I was a child, put a picture of them on my wall. They're the most
no.
bunch of clowns I've ever met. Like
It's
it
not a
used to
team.
be. You put a whole you ask your mum and dad, can you wallpaper the whole wall with the whole squad photo? Jesus Christ, it'd be the biggest mug shots of all time.
It would
I
be.
honestly, I just don't like these lot. They just like, and let alone the substitute. No, that's just the starting 11. That's the best ones we've got. Also, oh Jesus, here we go. I mean, Gilchrist, he's probably, but this is what I know. They do you find this? They get in their head these idiots, and then they turn. And Palmer, thank God, so far he's been brilliant. But I just hope that he just carries on this, because I just got a funny feeling that he'll just end up like one of them. He'll just end up like one of them.
I I have a feeling he will probably be bought before, because I think the way that Chelsea are going, we're not going to be looking like a top six sides any longer. We are on the doldrums. We are on the
Yeah,
periphery going forward. I think
100
for the next
million.
few
He is
seasons, at the
worth
very,
100
very
million
least.
probably
And Cole Palmer
at the
will be
end of the
sold for
season.
profit. Because
Yeah.
if we can't sell profit, if we can't turn around profit from some of the other players or developing the academy products, Cole Palmer, we bought him for 45 million. He's working his way up to potentially being, towards the 80, 90 million pound mark, and that's what Clear Lake will look at. I say, oh, we've got to balance the books because we spent 120 million on Enzo Fernandez, who was basically carried by McAllister and Rodrigo de Paul at the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, and this pipe dream about Nkunku being he's been just as bad as the rest of them. He's done
See,
absolutely nothing.
no, see, I'd argue that given the chances that he's had, very limited chances, I think he's been all right. He's been all right. He's not firing on full fitness just yet. I think he's being all right. I think that's a bit. I think Nkunku's a little bit too far in terms of open for criticism. But every single player, with the exception, you can look at maybe, Disasi, Gusto, Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, Ben Chilwell, Sterling, Gallagher to an extent, because he's not giving us anything other than running around. It needs to have a look at themselves, because they're just not performing to the standards. They're just not. I think Sterling would rather be anywhere else. I think Sterling should be a player. I defended Sterling in the start of the season before he had a good start, but I think that Sterling's a player for Saudi Arabia now. Genuinely, he can get his big money move at Saudi Arabia, earn his money there, but he's just not given. He's not a Sterling of
Tim,
even 4 or 5 years ago.
you've kept very quiet. What do you think, mate?
Depends what on.
Go on, hate on this team. Come on, because it's dreadful. It's awful. We can say, it was Liverpool away, which was terrible, but Wolverhampton at home.
To be honest, as soon as we scored, when we scored that goal, it was like a sigh of relief getting back to the game. I just thought that Caicedo played that brilliant pass, and I thought, okay, maybe at least we could get a draw today. We've actually scored in the first half. But then a minute later, the same thing that we've been talking about, the setup, he gives a sloppy pass away. I think that was mainly down to him just making the error, but it's a constant theme of just how we play when we've got the ball. We almost playing the ball not to lose it, in a sense of just how long can we hold on to the ball without kicking it, passing it back to the goalkeeper and kicking it out and giving it to the opposition. And unfortunately for Caicedo, he gave away that sloppy pass, and it got off him, and he was surrounded, to be fair. So it was going to happen anyway. I think it was just a matter of time. And we've seen. I don't know if you guys have seen the newspaper about him calling him basically the flop of the season. I think that's actually quite harsh, because he's been okay at what he's been tasked to do. I just think he's got a mountain of a big task to do. I don't know if you guys remember when we used to play Jorginho as the lone defensive midfielder, and how exposed he looked right there. And it was kind of a thing of, Jorginho's limitations. Why would you sort of deploy him there in the Premier League, where you've got fast wingers waiting, or attackers waiting to pounce on that sort of thing? So I think Caicedo's been left there a bit hung to dry, sort of thing. However, obviously he hasn't been brilliant himself. I think we've definitely not seen the best of him. A couple of games he's showed a bit of his confidence of spraying passes, making good tackles, but he had a very shaky start, much like Thiago Silva did when he first arrived, if you remember.
But that Thiago Silva's shaky start lasted a couple of games. It was the game against West Brom when he gave the ball away. That was it, really. I think that's an
Yeah.
unfair comparison.
Well, okay, unfair just because the team around Thiago Silva is completely different to the team that Caicedo has now. I mean, there's nobody in this team who brings any sort of calmness or oozes class in this team, and it's just shown by, I suppose, our experienced players such as Chilwell, who's captain, making the mistakes he did against Liverpool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Sterling again, just the inconsistencies we've seen a lot of him this season. James, although he's not very experienced, he's been injured. So I don't know. I just don't think there's anyone to sort of come here and settle down. They almost need to hit the ground running. And with the lack of experience that most of these players have played, it's kind of really hard to stamp your impetus onto the team, especially when your manager doesn't really get the best out of any of our players at the moment. So yeah, I think it's more of a managerial thing at the moment. But however, it's a collective thing. Starts right from the owners. I said it from day one. The directors and the manager have to have the same idea, and we can clearly see they don't. In my opinion.
Yeah, I'd say same. Mudryk is a joke. He isn't playing for the badge. Have you seen a tweet of him wanting to 1v1 someone for £10,000? He plays like it's a
Yeah.
Sunday league game. I think it's just
Yeah.
stupid. That man is in dire need of somebody to take his Twitter account and hold of him and his
Yeah, I was
Instagram
going to say
account.
that.
On
Yeah, yeah.
social media,
Yeah,
Honestly,
it
you
was.
remember?
Don't get me wrong. By the way, that Chelsea fan who's having a go at him, I don't like that. At all. Having a go. But for you to rise up to it, and to just like, and for you to kind of like laugh about it like that,
yeah,
you're a scumbag, in my opinion. You're a scumbag.
Mm.
These are people who, don't get me wrong, that fan might not even ever pay to watch Chelsea. Who knows? Don't know who that fan is. But the fact that you not only did that and then clipped it and then went ha 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 about it, you're a scumbag. And I don't care. I'll be booing him on Wednesday. Don't care, scum. I will.
yeah.
Don't care.
I can't believe you two are going on Wednesday. Honestly, it's
Yeah, I
literally
don't care.
3 miles from my house, and I cannot be asked to go.
Doesn't bother me.
I cannot be asked to go because I just know what's going to happen is we're going to get our pants pulled down by Aston Villa, and
Well,
we'll leave
hopefully it's
all
Poch's
sad.
last game.
Yeah, hopefully we
Hopefully,
do.
I mean, all right. Let's move towards it. I mean, we can talk wax lyrical about this like game because it was absolutely dreadful. But come on, where are we now? Are we Poch out? Are we Poch in? Because I'm fully convinced now. I think Temba, you were convinced long before we went on the good streak at the start of December, where we got a series of results. But I'm fully out. I've seen enough. We've not improved at all, have we? Where are you still sat on a Poch out, or do you think we can't have a ever changing door of managers?
Go on, Charlie. I'll let you take this first.
Poch out. Yeah, it has to be Poch out, but at the same time, the biggest problem is Bowley. There's no doubt about it. The biggest problem is Clear Lake and Bowley.
Yeah,
Poch out's one thing. Poch does need to go out, but at the same time, I'll be honest with you. The biggest common denominator in this franchise of Todd Bowley and all his baseball teams and whatever is the fact that he's come into a football club like Chelsea and he's read it wrong, completely wrong. He's misguided his own people who have invested in him, and then he's sacked a manager who was quite good, like Tuchel, and then he's consistently hired managers who don't believe in him. And also,
yep,
all three managers were performed much underneath their prowess before that.
yeah.
Potter, by the way, before Potter came to Chelsea, was a respected manager. I don't think either of us would have said that he would have been that bad. We might have said,
He
oh, he
was
might come 5th or 6th. I don't
he
think we
was
expect him
touted.
to be
He
10th,
was
11th.
he was touted to take over from Southgate when
Absolutely.
Southgate gets lead. He was favoured to take over from Southgate, so there's no slouch. Like he's
Uh,
well revered in the coaching game as a tactician, but he just again he's another person that's been made worse by Clear Lake Capital. Like in terms of their appointments, they're 0 for 3 in terms of successes. They
they
got rid
have
of
they have they have to be held accountable for this now at Chelsea. And I think that match, from my understanding, they were. I think the Chelsea fans were starting singing Roman Abramovich, was starting singing "fuck off
I get it
Bowley" and
now.
this sort of thing. I think it's good that they weren't actually going on the manager too much. Look, Pochettino's Pochettino, but Tottenham, whatever. We can have all that sort of stuff, but ultimately he was the best we've had out of those three: Lampard, Potter, and him. Right,
himself. Yeah,
and those three, I think he was the one who had the best chance. He had the most money spent on him as well,
Yeah.
and probably had the best squad, and yet he still failed. Right, I just think it has to come down to the top. I can't believe this guy. Um, it's I could write a book about this guy. Honestly, I could write a book about the complete weird decisions that somebody can make at his level. But I won't. And look, ultimately, look, I sit in my house and he sits in his towers. You know, ultimately, I can't. What can we do? But it's one of them. It's so
Yeah.
bleeding obvious. You know, when Abramovich came in, what was the first thing that Abramovich did? He came in and he got Peter Kenyon. He got the best, the Man United's Peter Kenyon. He was their chief executive at the time. He was the best guy to do that job. Got him in. There you go. Right, you've got the com. Right, who's next? He got Ron Goulay. He got people. There was plenty of people that he got over the years who were good people. Even Bruce Buck. Bruce Buck was the one who bloody bought the club with him. Like,
yeah.
yeah, you know, these were good people who had. And what did he do? He just bought a load of people from America with him. And then today he's gone and bought some Tottenham bloke. Have you heard about this? He's bought some Tottenham
Yeah,
bloke
the new chief
who
operating officer.
is basically just a failure. Yeah, just a failure Tottenham bloke who couldn't get a shirt sponsor in or whatever
Stadium
the
name.
stadium
Stadium
thing.
name. Yeah.
Just a complete clown, a real clown. And it really annoys me actually with Bowley. It really annoys me the way that he's run this football club.
Yeah, I would argue he's made all aspects of Chelsea worse. It,
Yeah,
it's sort of I think in terms of atmospheric games now. Obviously, the last Stamford Bridge game that I went to was Aston Villa at home. It was a rotten atmosphere there. It was bad. It was a rotten atmosphere, wasn't it, Tim? Because fans just don't expect anything from this team anymore. They don't expect anything. You know, we're Chelsea. We're a bigger name than what we should be. You know, at the very minimum, we should be like top six. But it's got to the point now where, you know, hopium's horrible. Do you know what I mean? Because we're all addicted to it. We're all addicted to hope. But it's terrible. It's absolutely awful, and it's just been made worse in all aspects of the club. Everything's worse. Everything's a joke. We are fully the banter team now, completely, and it's funny for all other 19 clubs in the league. Let's face it, because nobody wants to be the banter team. But I can't. It's just you can't. The problem is you just can't say, "Hey, you need to sell. We want you out,"
Can't.
because they can't. You just can't. Like, it's not possible. Look at what Newcastle tried to do for years with Mike Ashley. They turned on Mike Ashley, hated Mike Ashley, absolutely loathed Mike Ashley, but couldn't do anything because they've got no influence on it in the slightest. But the problem is we have now is what manager's going to come into this shit show? What decent manager is going to come into this shit show? I mean, the only argument they have is like at the moment there's chance at Stamford Bridge for Jose Mourinho to come back, but even he's not fucking stupid enough to walk into this shit show. Like who would
no,
you bring in? Like what do you do? Do you bring an interim? Do you say to John Terry, do you know what? We need you to just man the team for the next 4 months while we search and wait and bring in. Like what do you do, Tim?
no. I think whatever move the club want to make, they better make sure that the team's going to improve. There's no point of doing a last season now of just steadying the ship. I think top six, I should say. Top six is still achievable. I think European football can still be got at if we hit a good run of form and we are, with a good manager. Because I believe with our coefficients, we might get an extra spot in Europe. So I think maybe seventh or eighth will be enough to get into Conference League, and I think even that is probably going to be deemed as a pass this season, because I think we'll get into the FFP reasons, but just from a squad point of view as well, if we manage to get most of our players fit, I do think we are still over bloated in terms of first team players. And like we've said with this scattergun approach, I think they recruited too many players at once, where we haven't got this multi-club structure under control yet. So we're going to need to give these players game time. We're going to need to play these players now. It's a situation either they get sold or they have to have game time, because it's not like a thing of we can afford to keep them on the bench and just let their value decrease all the time.
It's loans. It's
Yeah.
loans. It's sending these players out on loan. That's what it is. Like ships Sterling out to Saudi Arabia to try and recover something from FFP on that scenario. We're paying this bloke £350,000 a week. It's not exactly gone well.
Yeah, but
It's loans. It's players like Nicholas Jackson who just aren't quite good enough to at Chelsea. Mikhailo Mudryk again needs a run of games, but he's not going to get a run of games at Chelsea. Like Mudryk has got potential, but he's not going to play every single game in the season because we've got such a fat squad with all these players that he's got to rotate these players to keep them happy, to stop them
yeah,
kicking up a fuss. By all accounts, they're not happy as it is.
because if you look at that injury list right there, and you think of the players that played on the weekend,
Yep.
That's the
the
first
Not
team.
many.
Hmm.
There's not many that were getting ahead of some of the players
There
that played.
is Reece
Probably
James
Reece
would,
James. Yeah,
Cucurella
but not
might,
not many.
Lavia might, for Wes Fofana would, I reckon.
yeah, and
Lavia maybe, we haven't really seen him. He might do.
exactly, and that's the issue. And then you look at the bench,
Colwell would.
and then you look at the
To be fair.
bench. You think how many of those players will then miss out because of the squad size is way too big. I mean, what who was on the bench? Sorry, I can't see properly.
Bench was Nicholas Jackson, Mudryk, Chukwuemeka, Alfie Gilchrist, Benoit Badiashile, Madueke, Casadei, Lucas Bergstrom, and Bettinelli.
Okay, so maybe 3 or 4 of them would probably go on loan next season. Gilchrist probably gets a loan. Casadei probably gets another loan. Well, hopefully we don't put 2 goalkeepers on the bench again. But then you add about 4 or 5 players, minus maybe Thiago Silva is probably the only one who's definite to leave this summer.
Yeah.
It's still a slightly over bloated squad. Of course, you always have injuries, but I think it's better to work with a good amount of number of players. But we need to get that injury list definitely down, because I think we've had 13 plus injuries for the last 2 years, which is unheard of in my opinion. Going back maybe the Arsenal days where they used to have Alex Song, Nasri, and whoever else constantly injured, Ramsey, Wilshere.
I don't think injuries is mutually exclusive to us though, because you look at like Manchester United and Newcastle United as well. They've had the same level of injuries that we have.
Aston Villa. Look at Aston
Villa have
Villa.
had the same level. Aston Villa have had
Yeah,
the
but
same level
I
of
think
injuries
it's
we have.
because it's been two years of it. I think that's the key. Obviously, Newcastle and everyone's going to have it this season, but they've also played a lot more games than us. We should take that into consideration. And we don't even play to that intensity. So there's another issue. I don't know if you guys have seen the supposed leaks of what's been going on behind the scenes.
I mean,
And
let's
Doctor.
let's just move on to that now. We may as well just talk about it now. So mood in the camp is rotten. Timber, lead the way. What's going on? Why does everyone hate being there? Why is all the fake smiles for the cameras for the social media?
yeah, so according to a particular podcast, The Byline, anyone who wants can go check them out, of course. But there's been leaks apparently that from a source that the camp mood is rotten, and Sir Enzo and Caicedo in particular apparently a bit stocky. They're much overweight compared to their form when we bought them. Again, I don't know if that's a Pochettino
True
thing
or
or
rumor?
that's
Aren't they known to be like mad fit as well? Like a load of Pochettino squads with all the pressing and stuff
yeah,
in illustrious shape. So why have we got
yeah.
two midfielders that are considered when they're not overweight in the grand scheme of things? Let's face it, that's stupid to think. But why are they carrying more weight than an elite athlete should?
Again, I don't know. Have they been in the gym too much? Are they gaining muscle mass and maybe lost a bit of speed? But again, I thought Pochettino liked quite streamlined players, but maybe they've done that to sort of bolster the midfield in terms of trying to add steel to it. I'm not too sure. I'm just throwing out hypotheses here. Um, Apparently, also the players, some of the players are, you know, incapable of receiving a lot of criticism. Apparently, the sort of performance analysts have been told to reduce the amount of sort of instructions or critiques on their performances to downplay it a little bit.
I
Those.
just want to quickly interject on there, Tim. How much does that piss you off, Charlie?
Well, just
The fact that
generally.
they can't take any. Yeah, just how much does that annoy you? It's like
Yeah,
they
because it's
can't take
basically just
any
yeah,
form of
exactly.
criticism.
Well, it's not even that. It's the fact that we even know about it. Why are we even talking about it? Why have they leaked that out? Why do we even know about this sort of stuff? Years ago, right, when Jose Mourinho was the manager, the training was a training, and you find out about bad press in the press. A sign of a weak manager, in my opinion, is one who leaks everything to the press. That's why Ten Hag, in my opinion, is a weak manager, and Pochettino is a weak manager. Klopp doesn't let it do him, does he? Pep doesn't let him do him. It's just another airing our laundry into the air. That's what I think about this
Yeah,
team. It's just another example of us airing our bad laundry, and I'm just sick and tired of it. It's just like even like that thing yesterday with Thiago Silva's misses and this and that. It's just like why are we even in this situation? Why don't they just sort this club out? It's so
yeah.
annoying. I can't find this.
Well, rumors have it it's not been particularly well received. I mean, I like Belle Silva. She's great, but
Oh,
like it's not been
Yeah,
particularly well
received by
received
who?
by the club.
I
By the
know, but
club,
she doesn't. She didn't. But she doesn't.
she doesn't
Doesn't
work for the
matter.
club. That's the thing. Yeah, she
Exactly.
can say
It's,
what she
it's nothing to
wants.
do with her. Yeah. I
She can
mean,
say what she wants.
say what she wants. Thiago Silva is probably bigger than the club at the moment. That's
yeah,
the
and
thing. He
apparently that
probably
didn't
is.
go down too well to with the higher ups, obviously. But
Yeah, but
uh,
he probably. It wouldn't surprise me if he said, "Go and do it." And the
Probably.
fact that he's picked her over the club just shows it. I mean, I know you would, anyone would. Yeah, let's be honest, right? Obviously,
Yeah,
but you know what I'm trying
pick
to
your
say is
wife
that,
over the club.
well,
like,
I
no,
know
but
probably wouldn't.
no, but you know what I'm trying to say is that, like, to literally do that, like, publicly, like, outright, like, literally, like that, I
Yeah,
think it just shows it all. It
but
just
I
shows it
think
all.
she tweeted that during the game.
Okay.
Apparently, so I think it was about maybe the second half or half time she tweeted that. So probably when Wolves went
I
like
just
3.
try and say because I've heard, yeah, that it was something about maybe putting it into three at the back rather than two at the back or something like that. Or
Yeah, yeah, and just to carry on more of
yeah, go on.
what's apparently leaked. Apparently, also the players can't wait to go home. They don't really stay after training.
It
Um,
shows.
all the running stats are down apparently as well.
It shows.
Uh, yeah, so someone who's been apparently at Chelsea for 15 years has said that this is the worst group of players he's ever seen talent wise. He has no idea how they play as a team. Um, we've
It's
recruited
sparkling.
we've recruited a lot of players from teams who play a lot of positional football, and players don't know what to do outside of those circuits. Uh, and the other thing was the recruitment has so many different voices that they're pulling in different directions of not knowing of basically one sort of strategy to go on. So
Yeah.
some have gone too high on potential and uh, lost sort of in translation with how many actually good footballers we have at the moment. And I
And that's
think
the
that
trouble.
kind of lines up well with what we're seeing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Mm.
Just nobody knows what they're doing because, like I said, a clear example is recruitment. You have 4 separate recruitment people. They're all going to have their favoured people that they want to recruit and bring to the club. So they're all just going to be butting heads the whole time. It's like, okay, well, if I let you bring in X player, you can let me, not restrict me trying to bring in Y player. Do you know what I mean? There needs to be one voice alone. Like I don't understand how this whole duo thing would work in place. It needs to be one voice alone. as the director of football, if you're going to have a director of football, is have that person responsible for bringing in those talents, because you don't see it at other clubs. There's no transfer committee anymore. It doesn't go to, oh yeah, well, we're going to vote. You need to have 80%, and then we'll put a bid in for Mario Melchiot. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make it doesn't work that way. It needs to be one voice. There's just too many people. Too many people just interfering. You just need somebody to come in and just you just take over completely. It's why I'm saying, you look at the play. Was it Michael Edwards at Liverpool that we were trying to go for?
Yeah.
Michael Edwards that we tried to go, and he turned us down, which I'm not surprised
Where's he
that
gone?
he's turned
Did
us
he go
down.
anywhere?
Yeah, that
No,
was
they
for
tried to
fam-
get him back at Liverpool. They tried to get him back at Liverpool, but he said no. So
Yeah, apparently it was for family reasons. So let's just
personal reasons.
yeah.
So I mean, he's avoided us for family reasons, but even for professional reasons, why would you come here unless you're gonna pay through the roof for him? I think another reason as well, Pochettino is very likely to stay until the end of the season. I think it's going to cost about £10 million for his contract to be put in the bin, as well as all his backroom staff as well. Which again, FFP is a serious issue, isn't it, Tim? I generally come to you for the business side of this thing. I think Chelsea, they're still in the business of trying to sell some players as well, come the summer. It was. I don't know about you guys. Did you expect us to bring somebody in the window? I expect us at least to get somebody in on loan.
I expected maybe one incoming and maybe like 3 outgoings or 2 outgoings, but seems like we just recalled a lot of players on loan. I am a bit surprised we didn't go for a striker, maybe a short-term option, but maybe the club didn't see a feasible way financially of how it could work, and someone maybe who suited Pochettino, who Pochettino wanted. I'm not quite sure, even though it seems like the board will do what they want to do, and Pochettino will sort of just have to deal with what he's dealt with, which is another reason why I think they probably got him. Although that negotiation seemed a bit too long for me for someone who's just going to accept what he's given, sort of thing. So yeah, that's a bit odd, but obviously we won't know unless we were in those meetings. So I was a little bit surprised we didn't bring anyone in. Maybe it is because of FFP reasons. I think that's one of the things that will probably be the reason why he hasn't left as of yet. They'll need to come to an agreement of how much he gets paid, how long he'll get paid off for, and all that sort of stuff. And also probably the most important part is the replacement. I don't
There is
think
no one.
I genuinely don't think that the club had a contingency plan before this week. I think maybe now they're in a panic of let's start looking elsewhere, because as you've seen before that Liverpool game, if we had won those 2 games, we could have probably be sitting in what, 7th or 8th.
We would be sat in 7th. Yes, 7th,
Yeah.
and we'd have been 1 point behind Man United.
Yeah, so if a result had gone that way, we could have looked off in a better offset. Now we're starting to look behind us and look at Bournemouth, because Bournemouth have a game in hand. If they win suddenly, we're looking more towards the bottom of that table. We're looking at 12th, 13th place, and it's almost the same situation as last season. Maybe we're looking at the teams below us to lose more games than us, where we just finish mid-table. And it is a shame, because if you look at the graphic of this time last season, we're in the exact same position with the exact same number of points, which again is shocking. So I don't see a managerial change unless it's for someone they think is deemable good enough to stay for the long term rather than an interim.
Yeah, I guess the only people that can really say the interim didn't work last time with Lampard coming back, because the players had no impetus to try and win. They didn't have to impress or whatever. They need to bring somebody in full time. There's no point bringing somebody in the interim anymore, is there, Charlie? Of other play, if you just of the people that are available currently, if you think you got Mourinho, you got Conte. It's that bad. I consider Conte, but you've got Hansi Flick as well. There's a fair few managers out there that are available. I mean, if you are in charge and the board, and FFP is not an issue, who do you bring in?
Yeah, and that's obviously the biggest problem. I think everyone knows that the biggest problem is who do you bring in. Um, do you know what? It's so frustrating because I hate Pochettino and I hate the way that this club has become. And at the same time, like what you just said there, it's like you can't. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. What do you do about it? Ultimately, you can bring in who? What? Lampard, Terry, Jody Morris. Frank
But
Leboeuf.
why?
Exactly. What's that going to achieve? 6 months of something. Yeah, okay. We get into next season. We're back where we were again. It's ultimately from the top, and I think everyone should realise that. And I really hope that the Chelsea fans do realise that it's nothing to do. Pochettino is actually not the problem. The problem is the top.
Yeah.
It's always been the top. Everyone should know that, and that's the way it has to be.
Yeah, got a comment here. Poch had Maitson and let him go. Now he's crying for a left back. Yep. Again, don't understand why Maitson was sent out. I understand why, from a financial sense, if they do buy him, I guess. But again, he's an option that just never really had that chance under Pochettino for whatever reason. Probably just due to the fact that he's probably not going to sign a contract. Well, he did sign. Did he sign like a 1-year contract extension before he went out? But it's purely just to get
Yeah, just to
is it a
get a
release
thing.
clause put in, wasn't it?
Yeah, so again, it wasn't Poch's decision. These are sort of transfer. This is the thing with modern football is it's not to do with the manager necessarily. The manager
Yeah.
might bring the player to the club, but the manager won't stop a player from leaving. A lot of people have got to
Yeah.
realise that. Klopp or whatever can get a player to join the club, but he can't necessarily stop a player from leaving because the leaving's the money, isn't it? You see what I mean? And that's the thing with a lot of what we're doing at the moment. It's just that we're buying. We're just buying. It is just literally a financial decision. There is no other reason why we're buying these players. There's absolutely no other reason why we're buying them. We're buying basically a load of kids purely for financial reasons, hopefully to make it back in the future. And that's just the wrong way to do business. It's just wrong. Um, it's always been wrong and it's stupid. It's never worked. It never will work. And that's it.
Well, so yeah, I mean, one thing I want to talk about, especially when you're looking at the mood of the dressing room as well. Like you've got Ben Chilwell as the vice captain, Reece James, who's just always perennially injured, and when he has been, he's got the same number of goal and assist that Conor Bradley has in the Premier League in the last 2 years. Like when it comes to this captain side of it, yeah, horrible stat, right? Absolutely horrible stat. The same amount of goals and assists in the last 2 seasons as Conor Bradley. Conor Bradley has played 4 games. Mad, isn't it? But the captaincy is a big issue because you don't see any leaders. The only natural leader really is Thiago Silva, and he's off in the summer. But there's no point giving it to a player who's departing. But there's no voices really that you see. There's nobody. Were we just spoiled with having John Terry as our captain, and then Gary Cahill taking over? Were we just completely spoiled, or is this just a thing in modern football? Like, do we need to get a player who's potentially not as fantastic a player in terms of technical ability or in terms of defensive ability, but a leader in the dressing room? Do you think that's something that's an option that could be put for? I'm going to ask that to Temba because I know what Charlie will say.
Yeah,
But I'll put that to you,
I'm waiting
Temba.
for that. I think it's a bit of both. I think it's more the performance side. I think it needs to be a lead by example, but obviously someone who can communicate well, who speaks the language. Because I think that's probably one issue we have maybe with Thiago Silva as why he's not being captain. But then again, Poch did mention about he wanted an English core. So he gave the captaincy to Colwell, I think, one game. And Colwell came out after saying that he was actually really nervous giving the team talk. And he didn't feel comfortable. But, and this is your captain, this is your captain saying that. So
Scott Parker, that's what you need. Bring him in.
Yeah. So again, a little bit crazy, but it is what it is, I suppose. What can you do? I don't think anyone really stands out in that Chelsea team to be captain, in my opinion. I don't really see any talkers or someone who stands to be counted for apart from Thiago Silva. But again, I don't know. Can he talk to the referees, communicate with referees, do the briefs before the game, after the game, sort of thing. Those are captain's duties, I suppose, and maybe that's the only downfall he has. But even his vice captain, well, the vice captain is usually injured, and he's currently putting in stinkers as well. The actual captain is always injured. So yeah, I can fully understand where Poch kind of has nowhere to look in terms of a captain in this team.
Charlie, do you think we missed the boat with Jordan Henderson? Getting him on a free from El Etifak?
Yeah, you did. Well, we did.
Do you know what? Even I take it now. I think it's stupid.
Can I just? I do want to rewind something. About a year ago, you can watch his podcast. I said all the way long, Jordan Pickford, and this is in the middle of summer. Jordan Pickford, Jordan Pickford, Jordan Henderson, and Harry Kane. If we'd had them three players, what was that? Sorry,
Jordan from Rizzle Kicks. I was just trying to name another player. Jordan Ibe.
Yeah, and Harry Kane. If we'd had them three players, we'd have won the league. I genuinely believe that.
I mean,
this is what I'm trying to say. If you look at the teams that have won Premier Leagues in years gone by, even you look at Liverpool, 2000, what was it, 19, 20, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Jordan Henderson, okay, Alisson, right, and then Salah. You could argue was a leader in himself, but I think he's more of an individual. Man City over the years, companies, Yaya Torres, these sort of guys, Silva, Aguero, yeah, exactly. Even Hart, to an extent, and there's players around that can do that job. I just think that we missed a trick there. I've said it all along. We sold all our leaders. Yeah, okay, we got a pretty good buck for them, but we sold all of our leaders and basically replaced them with people that aren't leaders. And the problem is the only leaders, like we say, that we've got now, which is Thiago Silva, their countdown's running out. So now we've got no leaders. So in a way,
Alfie Gilchrist.
It doesn't matter.
With that haircut.
It doesn't matter though. You can't lead without. You can. It's possible to lead without some sort of success, but you have to. You have to prove something first. But usually you have to be around players as well. Even Steven Gerrard was around players like Collymore, Ince, players like Ince. These are the sort of players I'm talking about. Ince, players like that, like John
Sammy
Terry.
Hippier.
Yeah, Sammy Hippier was around. Sammy Hippier. Yeah, John Terry was
Stefan
around.
Honcho.
At that time,
I'm just trying to say names, Charlie. I'm just putting you off. Sorry.
No, but John Terry was around Marcel Desailly, for example. Frank Leboeuf, for example. Ed Dahoui behind him, for example. Babayaro, for example. Graham Lasso. I mean, there were players around him that had a lot of experience. Even Mario Melchior, relatively, was a very experienced player, international player. So you had players around him. And Frank Lampard wasn't a particularly good player until Makelele came along, Veron came along, players like that came along and guided him. That was the way it was. I think we're mugging ourselves off if we think that this team who are a bunch of kids, and they are a bunch of kids, are literally going to do anything. I do, because I know everyone goes on about Man United being a bunch of kids when they had Gary Neville and this, but they still had Pallister, they still had Steve Bruce, they still had Eric Cantona, they still had
Schmeichel.
players. Schmeichel was relative. Still have Dennis Irwin, still have players like that around. So,
yeah. So hopefully they the club pull the fingers out their arse and sign some experienced players in their mid-20s, even if it's two or three. Well, Asim Hen's coming in. He's like 20. Well, we say he's coming in. Rumored to be coming in. Let's say that rumored. We are his preferred destination. Why? I have no idea. He wants to come into Chelsea, into this absolute shit show. But we need to move forward. We need to look towards Wednesday's game. Chelsea go to Aston Villa, 3 miles down the road from where I live, and I absolutely got no interest in going to this game. I'll probably change my mind, maybe Wednesday. But I've got no interest as it stands at the moment. I can't see anything but us taking a loss against a superior Aston Villa side, a well-coached and superior Aston Villa side, which I'd never thought I'd say as a Chelsea fan 10 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. I think for our moral superiority, we just have to take this one on the chin and say it's 99% chance we'll lose that game. I think the 1% chance is the hope that someone does something absolutely amazing, and it's all not down to Pochettino of why we win. Or, we'll just have to hang in there, probably 80th minute, hope for a corner, Thiago Silva header. We escape with them hitting the post 4 times and clearing it off the line sort of game. But in terms of competing with them in 90 minutes, I think we'll get played off the park. Absolutely.
I think we'll concede 4. I think we'll concede minimum 4 again. I think we'll get our pants pulled down and we'll concede 12 goals in 3 games. At which point, Poch's position is untenable. At that point, the club have to do whatever they can.
Get sacked, and then maybe his assistant is in charge for 2 or 3 games while the club look for an intermediary. But I think if they don't sack him after we're out in the FA Cup, I genuinely don't know what they see in the rest of this season.
We follow up with Palace, don't we? Is the Palace the next game after we play them?
And then I think one more and then a cup final.
Yeah, and then they'll sack Hodgson. So Palace have a new manager bounce, but it'd probably be Graham Potter. Let's think of it this way. Imagine if Potter comes in for Palace and he pulls our pants down as well. That's just no retribution for Potter. And we've just stuck with nothing again. It's an absolute... I know. I remember towards the end of the season saying last year, can't wait for this season to end. But I'm in middle of February. We're in a cup final, and I still can't wait for the season to end. It's awful. Let's move towards score predictions for that, Charlie. I'm conscious that we haven't asked you in regards to your thoughts of the Villa game, but are you going to witness a loss, or are you going to witness a plucky draw? Because I think it goes to penalties after this. Do you reckon we'll go that far?
Oh, positive. I'm going for a 2-1 loss.
2-1 loss, courtesy of Aston Villa defeating Chelsea. Timber, can you better that? Do you think we'll concede more, or we ain't scoring more?
4-0.
4-0 to Chelsea.
I won't say who to, but 4-0.
4-0. Okay, I'll answer it for you. So Timber thinks 4-0 to Villa. I'm going to go 5-0. I think we'll get absolutely destroyed. I really do. I think we'll get absolutely destroyed. And there's only one way we have any chance of qualifying from this game, and it's on penalties, or if I decide to bet on Villa to win, because that's the only way. Because me putting a bet on something is a surefire guarantee that that bet is not going to come in. In fact, I might even do that.
Do you guys think if we went to a back 3, it would change anything whatsoever?
No.
Nope.
You think it's just asking for the inevitable?
Yep.
Yeah,
and the next thing I quickly wanted to add is, do you think playing Petrovic in goal with the way Poch wants to play actually hampers us?
No.
In a sense.
No. Why?
No.
Why does it hamper us?
Because
we're not
play
on the ball.
Yeah.
But neither Sanchez.
I think Sanchez is just crap, but I think Petrovic is a thing of fear.
I think they're both dreadful. I think they're both subsided.
I don't think Petrovic is dreadful. I don't think he's dreadful.
No.
I don't think he's number 1.
No, I don't think he's not up to the standard, but he's for a mid-table team, which we are. He's fine. For what we are, he's absolutely fine. He doesn't get in the way, if that makes it. He's not the problem.
Yeah.
He's not like Man United. They go Onana. They can always look at that. We don't have. He's not that much of a problem, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
He's
no,
fine,
I get it. I get it.
Do you get what I mean? Do you think he could be the answer for the next 3 or 4 years, or do you think it's still a situation you'd probably need to come back at in a year or two?
You'd have to come back at in a year or two. At the moment, I don't think Sanchez gets in ahead of him.
Mm.
Yeah.
I just don't. Maybe I'm seeing. I know he's conceded 8, but
No, no, no.
there's
I
not much.
think Sanchez is awful, but I'm just looking at it from anyway. If a manager were to come in, a new manager were to come in, and we would start playing maybe more of a high line, and because
Yeah.
obviously we have very slow centre backs anyway. I think we need to do something about that if we are to start playing a high line, or maybe a three at the back would suit us best because we'd have recovery. But in terms of that, I think it's still a situation of I don't see Petrovic as a keeper who's very comfortable off his line or with his feet. I noticed that
Mm,
against the Liverpool game, and also, yeah, just every game we've played so far. Whenever the ball comes to him, he really doesn't want the ball to feet sometimes. And obviously, he's trying to do the right thing by clearing it out. But in the future, you do need it. I think you will need a keeper who's comfortable playing out from the back. You've seen it with Man United and De Gea. Obviously, it worked well for them to start with, but when they started to try and play football, you saw the mistakes that
mm,
he ended up costing them. And I think he's from like the traditional style of goalkeepers where he will save you a lot, goals conceded, but he won't necessarily help you absorbing pressure.
mm. Well, it'll be an
Mm.
interesting thing to see how he performs on Wednesday as Chelsea go to Villa Park in the FA Cup replay at the fourth round. Chaps, we do try and keep this to an hour as we possibly can, but I thank you for joining us this week on youtube.com/WeTalkChelsea. We have been live on TKS TV on Fire Stick. We'll be back next week to review Chelsea losing to Aston Villa at Villa Park, and Chelsea, I think, is the game against Palace on a Monday. Is it the
Oh,
Monday we play
Yeah, it
them?
is a Monday. Yeah, the 12th. Yeah, yeah, it
yeah.
is. Yeah.
Hell yeah. So we'll be
I might be
live
there,
straight
by the
after
way.
that.
I might be there.
You might be there. Okay, well,
Mm.
Temba and I will be live straight after that because I don't think. Are you going to go to it, Temba?
No,
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 it's
not
my
like that.
cousin's 18th, so yeah, I
All
might
right.
be there.
Perfect. You got more sense, Timber. Charlie, obviously, you got to do that for your cousin. I
Mm.
respect it. But we'll be back next week, straight after the Chelsea Crystal Palace game next Monday. But we'll be back next week. Make sure you subscribe. Appreciate that. Thanks for joining the We Talk Chelsea podcast. I'd say up the Chelsea, but I'm depressed.